Good afternoon, Todd. You got the 3-game winning streak. You're through 5 games. You know, such a big part of hockey or pro sports is dealing with the adversity in games, the failure. Even if you win, there's a lot of things that don't go your way in a game. How would you assess through 5 your team's ability to deal with the rough patches in the games?
Well, we're on the positive side of 500, so I say we're handling it not too bad. The schedule hasn't been easy by any means, opponent and travel, so I would say that puts us on the positive side. I still don't think we're learning lessons that well yet, though, like the starts. We're slowly wading into games. We're almost waiting for something negative to happen to trigger our good game, and that has to get fixed, so that would bring us back to the midway point of our evaluation, but it's still early. You know, I still believe that this team is fighting off the past a little bit, if you will. It carries that a bit, and it has to get over and beyond that. We're a new group. We've got a new year in front of us, and to me, once we get through that initial phase of the game and we start to play, then we're fine, but that has to improve.
You guys have not... Couldn't help myself. You guys have been sort of finding ways to win games when you're not playing your best. As a coach, do you see that as a positive, or do you focus on the not playing your best part?
It's a positive. That's pretty good. Touche. What was your question again?
You guys are finding ways to win games when you're not playing your best, by everybody's admission in that room. You've had some slow starts and everything like that. As a coach, do you see that as a positive, that good teams find a way to win games, or are you more focused on, you know, maybe the slow starts and the stuff you need to improve on?
Well, I think it's our job as a staff and our job as a team to fix things that aren't working well, and that would obviously be one of them. So we've got to fix that. But on the other hand, at some point during the game, it clicks in and we're able to come back. We are able to stay in a game. We're able to push good teams late. You know, so it's chicken and egg. What are you looking for? There's a lot of positive in the back end of the game. There's some negative in the front end of the game. So today we addressed the front end. You know, if we take care of the front end, maybe the back end just keeps on going. So that's the approach we're taking.
Todd, the injury to Ty Ratty, you had mentioned yesterday, probably doubtful for tomorrow. So you'll have to move somebody into a spot that I think every winger would put his hand up, but he'd want to play. What's your strategy or analysis when you look to fill that spot tomorrow night beside McDavid and Nugent-Hopkins?
Well, we'll get an injury update on everybody. Today was a optional skate. We had a number of players that played well into the 20s. And they needed a little rest. 8 o'clock game, we'll full pregame skate tomorrow. So we'll know more about what's available to us first before we decide. In particular, Drake Caggiula. We'll see where Ty is. Matt Benning won't be available to us. So once the morning arrives and we get an update on injuries, then we can begin to assess who we're going to move into those spots. It may be Ty Ratty back in there if everything goes well.
And speaking of Matt Benning, you had mentioned yesterday you weren't sure if putting 2 righties together would be ideal, but that's what you started with, and their first 4 shifts were actually good until Matt got injured. If he's out an extended period of time, and Ethan Bear, would you look to wanting a lefty, or what did you see from those 2 guys that maybe you didn't mind as far as 2 young righties together?
Yeah, and you know, they didn't have poor shifts. They played it okay, but it just was such a small sample size that it's really hard to evaluate. And, you know, if we go righty-righty again with those 2 playing, we'll have to give them more time. But we got to get Matt healthy before he gets back in. So what's that left with? That leaves us with Garrison as a lefty. So naturally lefty-righty if we keep the pairs the same, or there's a potential recall for somebody else to come up as well.
Todd, can you kind of give us a feeling what it was like on the bench after Kyler scored? Everyone just seemed so happy for him. If you can kind of just take it from there, including himself. He looked, what an expression from a young guy on his first inning.
Yeah, you get, it's amazing what that youth can do for a team. Everybody's pulling for these young guys to get their first goal or, you know, play their first game, and it energizes the group. It's exciting to see it happen. You know, you almost it becomes numb when the regular players do it. When Connor scores a beautiful goal and goes from end to end, or Leon scores a game winner last night, you kind of come to expect it and it almost becomes numb. There's still joy in it, but when those young guys get their first and you watch them react or don't react, or they're stunned or whatever it might be, there's some satisfaction in that from the group. They're cheering for that for Yamo. They're cheering for some of the younger players. For Bush, he almost scored in New York the other day, and you could just hear the bench just about. So it's good for a team, not just ours, but for any team in the league to have those young guys putting up their firsts.
The Strohm Lucci Yamamoto line had a really solid evening. Regardless of the availability of Ratty or Kajula, are you planning on keeping that trio together tomorrow?
Again, it'll depend on who's available to us. We'll look at Nashville's lines. I thought they played a good game. I thought they played well together. Luch has been a very good player for us the first 5 games, and Stromer hasn't got on the score sheet, but he's starting to do some things well. Yamo, of course, scoring yesterday and creating some chances for his teammates. So, they were a good unit, but we have to look at the group as a whole. And I know that that 97 group is going to play likely more minutes than any other line, so we have to find the right combination for them.
Todd, people have talked about how tough this schedule was to start the season for you guys. How much of an emphasis was that for you? Did you guys have a record or whatnot that you wanted to have in mind that would allow you to get past this point and then?
We didn't come together as a group and set goals and say, hey, in the first 10 games we want to be 5-5 or 6-4. I think often you play to those numbers, and that can be dangerous. Maybe you deserve more, maybe you deserve less. We just talked about getting better. We talked about getting through that European trip healthy, improving as a team, doing a bunch of team building if we could, and then getting home and establishing our game here, and that's kind of the phase that we're in right now.